Hey!
Hi, everyone! Hello!
Welcome back. How do we have 3 people watching?
I don't know.
Already?
I guess they were waiting, unless it was live streaming us that whole time.
That's fantastic.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so bear with us. We're going to share the links to our groups because many of you watch.
You have to do it here.
Right? Oh, I have to do it here.
So click on that share button.
Right on. Okay.
And then
she's the techie here, not me.
I'm remembering from last time. It's not, rocket science for me because I'm just remembering. And I got my cell phone here so that as soon as Amanda has pasted the link into her group, then I can update my people and we will get on with the business of being the spiritual social. Woo! Apparently a lot of you loved that idea last time, which is great.
It was awesome. I love that.
I hope you've all had a great week, a great couple of weeks. Do us a favor and you can comment in the chat box. Let us know that you're here so we can say hi to you. And please post your comments, your questions there so that we can be interacting with you live and in person as the conversation flows here. Okay, we're almost there.
We're getting there. I can't do 2 things at once. That's why she's talking.
I'm not sure that I could have done 2 things at once. It's any comfort to you.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm chatting while you get the tech working, and then you're going to chat while I have to do my chat.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, for being patient. It's part of the process, right?
I want to know if you're watching, comment in the stream. How many of you picked up books after our last video?
Oh,
I know we had quite a stream about that. And I do, before we get into today's topic, I do want to take a quick moment to, when Amanda's done, I want to ask her if she picked up anything to read.
I did.
After
we all know
discussion.
that. I picked it up from your house.
I think I told him I was going to make you read with it. Yeah. So has anybody else picked up any books? And have you read some of those titles we were talking about last time? And tell us in the comments what you think. Did you like what we had to say? Are you reading those titles? Do you feel like, oh man, that's amazing and you want a part of it? Or do you think we're crazy and you don't really like it? Let us know, because there is no wrong answer. One of my favorite things to say is that the only absolute in life is that there are no absolutes. Just because it was great for me doesn't mean that it's going to be great for you. Okay, so now, Amanda, you've got that up.
Okay, so to answer your question, yes, I did promptly go and start reading The Mists of Avalon because Michelle and one of my cousins also told me that they saw me as the protagonist, the main character in the story.
100%. Has anybody read The Mists of Avalon? Do you disagree? No.
Yeah.
Of course it's her.
And yeah, it's she's a priestess and she's got black curly hair. It was quite fitting. It was quite fitting. And there's so many beautiful lessons in this book so far. I love it. Highly recommend it.
Okay, let's try to update. I'm here on my phone, guys. Not because I'm just ignoring you. There we go. Shine is live.
All right. Good stuff.
Oh, but I can't copy the link.
Oh.
I can't share it.
Yeah.
And then copy it. See, now you're the
Look, I got tech too.
Look,
I feel like I need a booster here. I'm gonna give myself a booster. Okay. This is so fun. I love this. We're gonna get chatting in a moment, I swear. Okay, so let me talk about what we're going to talk about today. Yeah. So you'll see the title of this, Why is Awakening Lonely? Or why can awakening be lonely? So we wanted to talk today. We got together after our first video and we sat down and made a list of some of the places we want to go, some of the questions that you all give to us as we move along, and our own journeys too, like our own questions and our own rememberings of what it was like, when we were first awakening and what that was feeling like.
Oh my God, like a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. Like there's the posts out there that's like people say awakening is this, and they show like these beautiful meadows and fields and like a woman just like standing in her power, and they're like, but
she's
really
so happy.
So happy. Oh, it's so easy.
Life has come to peace.
But then the other meme is like, and this is what it really looks like, and it's like a dumpster fire. Oh, Jan's here. Hi, Jan. Good morning.
Good morning, Jan. Awesome. And Jenny just texted to say that she's watching us online, but she can't comment. She doesn't figure out what to comment, so she wants to know she's here. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny. So anyway, so we titled this one, Why Can Awakening Be Lonely? Because we've both experienced this. In the description, we talked about how sometimes the people, places, and things that we've come to rely on to be our comfort, to be our support system, suddenly disappear through this process. And why does that happen? And what can we do about it, if anything?
And do we need to change it? Right.
Yeah. If anything, right? What can we do about it, if anything? Do we really want to change it?
So when I was starting my awakening process, which I think I shared with you last time, is really young in my life. It's like almost 30 years ago now. Part of what happened for me was I had been really deeply involved in the Catholic Church. And when I started realizing that there was more, and that spirituality was about my personal relationship with my idea of creator rather than what this dogmatic requirement dictated, I kind of fell out of love with the people who didn't hold similar viewpoints. And if you're farther along on your awakening journey, you probably remember when you were like so arrogant and cocky.
Oh my God.
And you're like, you don't know anything. I went through that. And I think we all go through that because we feel like, oh, I found the truth. I found the truth.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to hear the truth.
Yeah, like I can really connect to that. Like this is funny because we said this in the last time. I'm probably a little bit more the opposite, where I was like, I don't know anything. I know nothing, right?
Right.
So I was a little more
and you
in
weren't
that
telling anybody.
camp. But then I got the taste of like what the freedom could give other people, and I did want that for them. And so that, like, yeah. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So as you are in that cocky phase, you're going to lose people because you're going to be offensive. Like, not intentionally, right? It's not like I was sitting around thinking, I'm going to offend my mom by telling her everything that she's ever believed but is not true.
Right.
I wasn't thinking I'm going to offend her. I was thinking I'm going to open her eyes.
I'm going to save her. I'm not save. Maybe that's not the right word.
I maybe did think save though, because at the time I was so deep in the Christian dogma, which is, you know, if people haven't heard the story of Jesus, then you need to share the story of Jesus so that he can save you. Right. Yeah. So it may have been part of my thinking.
It was coming there for me. It was like, not so much that like I felt cocky that I knew it all, but it was like, oh my God, I found this secret. I found this elixir.
Right.
And it's now, I have to bring this to absolutely everyone I know. And it became like, I mean, well, it is my job now, but it's actually my job now. I took it on as my responsibility to convince a lot of people in my life that this was the way. And it took quite some time for me to realize that my way isn't going to be everyone's way.
It's not the only way. No. So you start to lose some people because you're a bit of an asshole.
Can be, for sure. Yeah.
When you think you're right all the time and you're
you think you're potentially
argumentative with people. And part we go through that argument phase, and I don't want to discredit that. I think it's hugely important because that's where we're figuring out now, what do we believe? Right. We've dropped this whole construct. So now what do we hold as true? I told you that now I hold as true that there are no absolutes, but 30 years ago, I was absolutely right that they were all wrong. And I was right. I was absolutely sure about that.
And I was very excited. Like, it was all I wanted to talk about. It was all I wanted to do. It was the only place I wanted to spend my time. And for me, that, you know, in those beginning stages, I lost a lot of people because of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I found that I turned away myself from anything that didn't kind of align with this new community I had found. Like, I just threw myself into it so wholly and completely that a lot of the people who were in my life at that time couldn't even recognize me anymore, because here I was, you know, for me, like in my awakening, I was still working full time in corporate. If you could see me, I should put a picture, like, you'd be a little surprised to see me. My hair was always dead straight. I was always in a business suit. I was always in my heels. Like, I presented myself in a very different light, and I was still working full time then when I started to discover all of these things, right? So the people in my life that knew me knew I was, you know, Amanda who went to Western, came home, got herself a job, started a family, right? I went to work, I came home, I watched TV, I lived for the weekends. I went out and, you know, drank most weekends with my friends, my friend groups at that time. That's what we were doing.
Right.
You know, and I started to come away from that, and it was pretty fast and furious, my awakening. And so, like I said, a lot of people like almost didn't recognize me, couldn't even see me anymore, and didn't want to see me. And that hurt.
For me, people still saw me. I didn't change my look or really much of my demeanor, but I didn't feel seen. It's a difference, right? Because the people in my world were seeing who they knew I was, not who I had become. And so I lost people there too, because I also didn't feel like I could trust them. with this new information, that I didn't feel like they would be respectful or supportive or loving towards what I was uncovering. They would be judgmental and harsh, and maybe they would be offensive too. So not only, was I being all right and sure about what I knew and wanting to tell some people about it,
Right.
I was also sure I was going to come up against other people who knew that they were right and sure, and that I didn't want to fight. I think that's part of the awakening, is you start going through this, who really matters in my life? Who do I trust enough? Who do I care enough about to tell them about who I am and where I'm going?
Yeah.
And when I took stock of that, I lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of people in my life who I didn't really have any connection to, other than I would see them at parties.
Right.
I would drink with them. And don't get me wrong, I continued to drink, and I still drink. Like, I'm the drinking slut.
Yeah, it's not about drinking.
It's not about
I'm not talking about drinking.
that necessarily. But it's a totally different life.
Well, and it's different experiences, different environments, different conversations, right? Like,
right.
I felt very lost and lonely for quite some time because I didn't know how to talk to people anymore. Like, the stuff that they cared about and I just didn't care about anymore. And and I was right in the trenches. Like, I was like such a reality TV junkie back in the day. And again, nothing wrong with that if that's something that you enjoy still at this point. But I mean, that was like my very best friend at the time, her and I, like, our relationship was based on reality TV. We would watch like all these different shows together, whatever was out at the time. I don't know. I'm for sure Survivor, like, but the other
Bachelor.
ones, like, oh yeah,
what was
Kardashians was one that I used to watch all the
Big
time.
Brother? We're all in the house.
Yeah, Big Brother I watched. I was total reality TV junkie. And my girlfriend and I, who was my best friend at the time when I was going through my awakening, we would FaceTime each other and watch reality TV together. And then we'd talk about it the next day. And we'd make fun of this person or that person, or we'd identify with this person or that person. Like, or what are some other conversations I'd be having? Oh, there's Jenny.
Jenny, you could relate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she says, I couldn't talk the way I wanted to with some people. Needless to say, they're not around anymore. Yeah, and so
that's what happened to you.
Yeah, I was like losing those. We all have our commonalities with our friends, the things that we connect on. And so the things that I would connect on with my friend, we couldn't connect on those things anymore because I was going through this, like, coming to my knees in my life, realizing like, oh my God, like everything I've been looking for, it's right here. There's so much more. I've been seeking and seeking and seeking and
chills.
Yeah, and numbing because I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I was hurting myself. And then suddenly I find this like elixir, and I'm so excited. And the people who I love most aren't as excited as me. Okay. Not only are they not excited, well,
they're turned off.
They're turned off. Yeah.
They're turned off.
That's
like, who did you become? You're like, what, you become a nun now? Somebody said to me. I'm like, are you even listening to me?
Yeah. Yeah. Who are you becoming?
Nuns are Christians. I told you I no longer identify.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, who do you think you are? I got that along the way.
And I will say, you will continue to get that at every iteration. So the thing that I like people to understand is that your awakening isn't just like a fixed moment in time where it ends, right? It would be nice if it was, but it's not. It's really the starting point.
I think you just crushed a lot of people's dreams.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What I refer to as the awakening is the starting point of your conscious evolution.
It's like two phases of your life. The part where you were asleep and the part where you were awake.
And so your awakening journey is continuous for the time that you are here incarnated on this planet. Yeah. And I see that journey very much as a spiral, right? So at the beginning, at the start of your journey, it's a huge circle. And you will just new things, new triggers, new pains, new losses, new frustrations. Oh, I feel like I've been here before. You hit the loop again. And you're a little bit higher up now. Oh, did we freeze?
No, we're good.
I think you're still there. You're all still there?
Yeah.
Give us a thumbs up. Anyway, you hit these loops and then you'll have similar experiences. So now you've lost that first trail of people and places and things. Amanda, you touched on something a moment ago when you were talking about...
Sorry, pause. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But you just made me think about our soul families. And we were talking about Celestine prophecy last time, right? How like and this is, I think, why I want to say this is because it's so important. We don't want to discount those people. I'm not discounting my best friend for going on a different journey than I went on. I am so grateful for her for being my soul family for that length of time that she was, because her and I got ourselves through a divorce together. We got through our first children together. We got through a lot of amazing, amazing things together. And that was my soul family for that length of time until I moved into a different soul family.
And so then you've lost these people and experiences, and you've recognized you're a little bit sad and without them. And then you bang up against the start of that circle again, where you start collecting new soul families and new experiences.
And we were sharing too that when you bang up against that and lose the people, like for me in my journey, it was, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I
I
doing
think a lot
the
of people
wrong
ask that
thing
question,
here?
right? Like, I'm sure you've asked that question.
Aw, thanks, Jan. I'm so glad to have you here, always.
Always, Jan.
Yeah, ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Now, maybe you're in the other camp, you're like, what's wrong with them? Right? So I think we could probably do it either way. Maybe. Like, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they coming along? That wasn't for me. I always turn in.
My wound, I'm often very external, as most people know. I'm very external. But throughout your awakening, I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing like my best friend. Yeah. I'm losing connection to my aunts and uncles who mattered, to my cousins. And oh my God, why don't I feel like I can't talk to people again? So this, what's wrong with me, is also what most of you are experiencing as anxiety.
Yes. Right? And like that questioning of, am I doing the wrong thing here? Am I doing a disservice?
Am I broken?
Yes. Am I broken? Am I
How many times do you hear that in your practice?
All the time. And no,
the
of course
no.
Not. No.
You are perfect.
But yes, we asked ourselves those same questions. And I had this real big fear that I was doing a disservice to my family. Like that in this awakening, there was a time where like I sat and contemplated putting a stop to it consciously, knowing that there was more out there. And I said to myself, I'll just wait till the kids are big. That's what I said to myself, and especially my big kids.
Because it'd be so easy.
Yeah, Ben,
to just go back to
my
sleep.
little one would be.
And
different,
a lot of people do choose that, right?
For sure.
Everybody hits that
might
wall
not be conscious,
where we're like, oh my God, this is too much. I don't want to do this. I'll just go back. And you know what? I rejoined a church. Like many years.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I got married in the church years after I started my awakening. Wow. I went back to it. And not to the Catholic Church. I went to an Anglican church because I needed women to be in spiritual leadership roles, which you can't have in Catholicism. But I went back to the Anglican church for a while because you go back to a little bit of what's comfortable. And we talked about that last week, right?
Yes.
That you go out there and retract.
Did I do the birth process?
No, you didn't do the birth process.
Right? The baby's born. It goes back in.
Right.
Until finally the shoulders are out, and then there's no choice. You're sliding right out of that baby.
Except with the awakening process, you could choose to stay asleep. You can't. I see those people in my practice all the time. They're often very bitter, resentful, and sad. But I always remind them that you can always make a different choice. Yeah. And that's true for you too. So if you've hit that wall where you're like, this is too much for me, I want to pull back, have your moment back there. You took your moment back there.
I did.
I took my moment. And
I did.
Like, to be honest with you, I cyclically take moments back there.
Absolutely. When I go back into a pattern of hiding, which sometimes I do, that's me taking my moment.
It's just normal. I hate to tell you, you think it's just you. It's really normal.
Yeah.
It's really normal.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about why it actually happens and where you're going to in vibration. Like, let's get a little bit underneath it.
Because this happens cyclically,
right? Because it's going to continue to happen. So I always give an example of a house. So, but we can utilize this example anywhere, right? With the people that, whatever. But the house example that I like to give often lands with people. So when you buy your first family home, let's say you're going to start a family. So you buy this big home for yourselves. And you furnish this home, you fill the bedrooms with the children, and it's got all this life and it's gorgeous. But eventually, as time does, it passes and the home begins to not have as many people in it anymore. You don't need such a big home anymore. But what happens is we don't recognize that necessarily. And instead we start saying things like, oh, this house is too big. Who's going to clean it all? Or who needs this many bedrooms? Or whatever it might be, right? We start to vilify the home, or it has so much work it has to get done. Where before you saw that as like this amazing possibility.
All this potential.
All the potential, right?
Now you're like, all the work.
All the work. Who's going to clean this? Who's going to mow this huge lawn in back, right? Yeah. We vilify the house. And really all that's happened is your needs are different now. Your vibration is different. Your circumstances are different. What you require is different. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's not the house's fault that you no longer require 5 bedrooms and, multiple layers for people to have. It's not the person's fault that you need something different. So when we vibrate out of alignment with a thing or a person or a place, it's a signal for us to move forward, to make a conscious decision to go in a different direction.
Now, it's really important when you notice that you're feeling alone, that you don't further deepen that aloneness by moving into self-pity, by retracting and retreating into your space, to no longer going out. Do you remember that story of the person who their town was flooding and the radio said, get out of town. And the person was like, God will save me. And so they just moved upstairs in their house and the water got higher and higher. And then some neighbors came by with a boat and they were like, get in my boat. And the guy was like, God will save me. And then he was on the roof and the Coast Guard came by with their helicopter and they dropped down like some search and rescue people to save this guy. He said, don't worry, God is going to save me. And then the man dies. And he gets to heaven and he says to God, like, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you a radio announcement. I sent you your neighbor in a boat. I sent you the Coast Guard. Like, we have to choose to act, right? So we want to meet our new soul family.
Right.
And you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Because what's holding you back is what you think used to make you comfortable, but you are so uncomfortable that you stay stuck. And you will continue to be lonely because you haven't met people. Like the day I met Amanda, I was pushing way outside my comfort zone. Like, I think it's about 6 years ago. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. So Ellie is 7.5.
Yeah.
And so there, I think it was about 6 years ago.
6.
And we went to a networking meeting and that's how like we first met face to face. And I didn't want to be there, but I was there because the speaker was somebody who I loved and cared about and adored and wanted to be there to support her. And where she was speaking was organized by somebody who I love and adore and wanted to, like, I always want to be with Jenny McKee. Like, that's the truth. So I went just knowing I was just going to hide in the corner and nobody would see me. So I got really uncomfortable and I went out anyway. And then this brave soul approached me and was like, hey, I think we need to know each other. And then the rest is history. Yeah. So you have to be willing to get out of your space, get out of those habits and routines so that you can meet people to fill those spaces because you are vibrating differently.
Yes.
But if you aren't willing to take action, you are going to vibrate differently alone.
Well, and I think it's important to come back to the point. You don't need to vilify that other person or that place or that thing in order to make that choice to move forward. This is where I see a lot of breakdowns in relationships and families and what have you, because we need like that catalyst, like that reason, that permission to move on, but you can choose it. You can choose that. Like if you see that a relationship isn't in alignment with you anymore and it's making you feel uncomfortable, or whenever you're with that person, you don't feel good. You come home, you don't feel good after the fact. You're not proud of who you are when you're around that person, right? Or how you behave. So there's no reason to get angry at the situation, although you might feel that.
You can feel your hurt. So Amanda's
valid.
Talking about this stuff and it's reminding me, like, the last couple of years of my life have been filled with what I call atrophy. People just leaving. Maybe it's not atrophy, it's attrition. People just leaving. And people who I never expected to leave, who I thought would be part of my life for like the rest of my life, who've been there for the whole of my life and are no longer. And I go back and forth between having lots of pain about it. For the most part, I'm fine. But I was processing around it, I guess it was about a week ago, maybe 2. And what I came to realize was that this person who had been my best friend for almost 40 years, like her job in my life was to give me approval. Like I always wanted approval from my dad, and I would never get that, and I will never get that now. like I know that now and I've made peace with it. I just transferred all that approval seeking to this beautiful woman who I adored. And as long as she was happy with me, then we were okay. But then I got past all that and I didn't actually need anyone's approval because I've decided that I just love me. And then my relationship with her really shifted. Where I was holding space for her to find another role in my life, she couldn't. Or she had changed too much that we could no longer sync together.
Right.
And that's not because I don't love and adore her. And it's not because she doesn't love and adore me. It's because we just can't fit together anymore. And that can be challenging.
Yes. And I just want to say, and perhaps for right now, you know, I think it was in that conversation we were talking about this, like, you know, sometimes I'll tell people, like, it's important to let it go now before it gets to the point where you can't come back.
Yeah.
You know, because it escalates and we want to find these reasons and we keep digging and we keep trying to fix it, right? You can probably relate to this like in your relationships, like maybe your marriages or partnerships too. Yeah. Like we just keep trying to fix it.
Or with your siblings, right? We always want to fix them.
Anyone.
Yeah.
And you know, if you keep trying too hard, you keep tinkering, you keep manipulating, you keep shifting and changing, trying to fit a mold that you don't fit into anymore.
Then it will break your retreat.
It will break. And then that doesn't give the relationship any chance of coming back in any form, you know. Well, I guess I shouldn't say ever, because there are no absolutes,
etc.
Yeah,
but she's right. Like,
but you get my
naturally
point, right?
Depart from one another.
Right. We allow the process to happen,
holding hope that perhaps one day, you see those circles behind, like the tree of life is sacred geometry, right? Perhaps those circles will interlope again, and she and I will be back together. Right now, we're just over here, and maybe they'll come back together. Maybe we'll wind up in a whole other circle.
Yeah.
And that's the soul group thing, like being connected to other people, right?
And I don't want to discount your feelings either, that it does feel personal. It can feel like an attack. It can feel like you're not good enough, for sure, okay?
Sister speaks for me.
It absolutely can feel that way. Now, I've shared with Michelle, sometimes my worry is I've gone a little too far the other way. I'm very comfortable with transitions and people coming in and out. And it scared me that, like, am I getting cold? That it doesn't bother me in the same way that it used to. But I think it's just a matter of acceptance.
The depth of your trust.
And
in the process.
That my trust, you know, that anything in this world is possible. And I believe that if we're meant to come back together, we will. And I do trust that. So we let them go without expectation, right? And we're gifted with peace on the other side of that.
We really do want to stick to the 30 minutes. But we're at 27. So I just really quickly want to make sure we throw in, we were talking in our description here about places and not just people, but places and things that bring us comfort. And you had mentioned earlier about becoming numb. So part of my awakening process has involved a reconciliation of so many things that I didn't necessarily want to have to face in my life. And, you know, you come up against hardship in your life all the time, be it, you know, information from people who you love and care about, things that they've gone through, how are you going to support them, be it loss, like your very important people have died who meant something to you, and like, what do you do with that? When we hit these crisis moments, we often turn to numbing. So for me, that's drinking. And not for me, that's pot. Not to say that I was an alcoholic, not to say that you were an addict. But we sometimes we just have to not feel all the feeling. And I share that with you because I want you to know it's okay for you to numb if you need to. Some people numb with food, some people numb with dancing, I know a lot of people who numb with exercise. Now that is not a problem I've ever had. I feel a lot when I exercise, so I don't do it very often. But there are people who use that as a numbing agent, right? Because you're just punishing yourself to the point where you don't have to feel or think about those things anymore. And it's distraction, right? And you need it. Your brain needs to rest. Your energy needs to rest. And it's okay for you to rest while you need to rest. Yeah. Just don't stay there. What did you say? Fall back into the pattern. You can collapse into the pattern. Right. No, sorry. You can relapse into the pattern, but don't collapse into it so that it becomes your life. Exactly. Right? I'll relapse into a pattern of hiding, but I don't collapse into it so that you don't see me for a year, which happened before, if some of you remember, right in the very beginning. Yeah. So the other part about the numbing stuff is that sometimes it just doesn't feel great anymore. Like sometimes I don't even enjoy the taste of gin. Believe me, that's sacrilege. No, but it's true, because for me, like, the numbing doesn't do the same thing that it used to anymore, because I'm in a different place. Because I don't feel like I need to be numb. Well, I turn on myself. So as soon as I go numb,
right? As soon as I go numb for like a stretch of time, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Amanda, you wasted
You're
all that
addicted
time,
again.
blah, blah, blah. But so that's why we're here reminding you, sometimes we go numb and sometimes we guilt ourselves for it, right? But sometimes it's just where you have to go.
Just where you have to go. And then it doesn't feel comfortable, and so you stop doing it.
Right. And you'll do it less and less and less, and eventually things become your new normal, right? And I think, you know, I'm in a place where I accept the blessings and the teachings of the unexpected. You know, like Michelle says, there are no absolutes, and I believe the only constant is change.
Amen
and
to
so
that.
let's allow change into our lives. Let's not
Yes.
reject, you know,
Yes.
let's not reject life. You know, that's how I see it. If I
Yeah.
reject change, I reject life. And I'm not prepared to do that anymore.
Amen.
Woo!
We shine. You shine.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks for being here. We'll be here again in 2 weeks. We need to know what you want us to talk about. So comment here or private message us. We're going to make sure that we get our ways to access us up onto this video description, like our websites and whatnot. Make sure you subscribe, okay, to Amanda's channel.
I should do like my kids on there. So if you like what you see, you turn your device this way and click that red subscribe button.
Next, in 2 weeks, we'll be on the Spirited Healing channel. So
yes.
we'll find that link so that you can make sure you subscribe there. And we'll do it again at 11 o'clock 2 weeks from now on Tuesday. I think that's February 11th. It's the day before our vagina monologue.
Oh, yes. Actually, while we're here, we should say that. If anyone, you know, local to Durham, let's make sure the date's here.
And you want to come, we're going to be at Scrimgeour United Church on
February 12th.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Wednesday, February 12th. And we're going to be performing in the Vagina Monologues. A few of us from
excited.
Circle. It's at Circle. So, yeah, let us know if you need more details. We hope to see you there.
Have an amazing couple of weeks. Keep shining.
Yes.
Keep believing. We love you too, Jenny. Keep shining. Keep knowing that you are just normal.
Yes. Exactly where you need to be. Lots of love. Bye everyone.